Welcome to Not Starving Artist, the podcast. I'm your host, Brooke Benson, money coach and equity actor. I am your financial cheerleader, here to help you build your financial confidence and have power over your money. The best part, no budgeting or bi-weekly paychecks required. I went from being a broke BFA grad having weekly panic attacks about money to a financially confident, wealth-building actor and business owner. Money gets to feel fun, simple, and sexy, and I am going to show you how. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. We're talking about delusion today. We're talking about how to actually manifest, like how to actually make it work. I'm a very tactical person, right? I love practical action. I'm someone who has always been like, what do I need to do? What's my to-do list? Give me the checklist, give me the action. And there was something about manifestation, like when I was first learning about it and having delusional thinking, delusional thoughts, that felt very foreign to me. I'm like, what do you mean my thoughts make my reality? Like that doesn't make any sense. Where's the action, right? And so I'm going to talk about today how to actually take that magical, manifesting, delusional thinking and actually create the results you want with it, right? Because it's not all just in our head. It starts in our head, but then there's other things we need to do. So how to actually manifest more money with delusional thinking. Let's start with delusional thinking. I was talking about this on Instagram earlier this week, but delusional thinking is having thoughts that are not based in your current reality about your financial situation. So right now in the world we live in America, right, especially if you live in America, if you believe that you can have financial abundance and live in an expansive financial reality, especially if you're a millennial and especially if you're an artist, it's not just millennials and artists, but especially if you're millennials and artists, that is a delusional thought. That is a delusional thought. And it doesn't mean you shouldn't have that thought. I want you to have that thought, but let's acknowledge that that's delusional because that's not likely and that's not probable. If we're talking about what's likely and what's probable, we're talking about paycheck to paycheck, maybe a little bit in savings, a couple contracts here and there, living a job you you live like a subpar life, pretty mediocre life. That's what's likely and probable. But that's not what I want you to be shooting for, okay? I want you to have delusional thinking. I want you to be thinking that you want like a multiple six-figure business while being an artist. I want you to be thinking that like you are going to be on Broadway. I want to talk to my actors here for a second. We'll get into this. I have an example about it in a second. But so many of us actors, we think we're thinking delusionally of like, we have these dreams, like we know we're going to be on Broadway, but you don't actually like believe that you can have it. So your delusional thoughts actually are delusional because you're not taking the action that you need to take in order to make them a reality. Because delusion and manifestation, because at the end of the day, manifestation is delusion, right? Manifestation is calling in something, deciding you're going to have something that isn't here yet. That's delusional because you don't see it, right? Like you don't have the evidence for it. And delusion and manifestation are wonderful, but like that's what they are, okay? So we're going to talk about how to actually take those things and make them a reality via your action. So delusion works when you take action that makes it possible to work. When you put yourself in places and situations and doing things that allow delusional realities to become yours, that allows your manifestation to actually come in, okay? So when we're talking, I'm going to give you an example. I have a client who, she wanted to make more money, right? She was like, I want to make more money. I feel like I'm living paycheck to paycheck, right? Or like I have some money, but there was no real tactical way that she was managing it in order to have financial overflow, okay? She was like, I want financial overflow. Amazing. First thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the practical action, okay? We're going to have the delusional thought, financial overflow is coming. But then the next step is, okay, so in order to create financial overflow, I need to tell the universe what overflow actually is. Because if you don't know what your baseline is, if you don't know when your cup is full, how are you going to tell the universe when it's overflowing, right? So what we did first was we figured out what it costs for her to live month to month to month. We figured out her financial baseline every month. And then we talked about what would it look like to have financial overflow. How much money per month equals financial overflow for you. We can actually put a number to that. And once we did that, it was like, great. Now she knew she needed to make, there was like 1 month where she needed to make $500 or $600 extra in that month. And then she went out and did that. I have a training inside of my Cashed Up Creatives video portal, which you get as a one-on-one coaching client, or if you're inside the monthly membership. I have a training called Make an Extra $500 a Month. So she used that framework, made an extra $500 a month. She was able to do that, okay? So then she started taking the practical action of doing that. And then she realized with her spending and her goals and what she wanted in the future, she was like, oh, I actually need like consistently more money. What I'm doing right now isn't consistently bringing me in the overflow that I want. I want consistent overflow. So she started journaling on that. She started taking some action in that realm. And then what ended up happening, and this is where the magical element comes in, all of a sudden, someone from her day job offered her a remote position that gives her exactly how much she needs to hit her overflow every single month consistently, okay? So do you see how when we're talking about manifesting more money, it starts with what you want, the delusional thought or the manifestation, and then what do I need to do? What are some of the things I can do in order to make it possible for the universe to give that to me, right? How many doors can I open, right? So you're doing that, and then you let the magic come in. Some of it you'll be able to trace back of like, oh yeah, this exact action led to this exact result. And sometimes you're gonna be like, oh, my action was just opening up doors, and then all of a sudden, like, these things came in and I wasn't even expecting, right? That's what starts to happen. I think of it as like pitching balls to the universe. That was a phrase that I read somewhere. I think it might have been in one of Mike Dooley's books. Mike Dooley is one of my favorite like mindset manifestation people to listen to and to read. I think it's a very practical and also accessible way to think about manifestation. I really love his work. So I think he was the one who said this. But it's all about pitching balls to the universe. And the more balls you can pitch to the universe, the more likely you're gonna hit a home run, right? Or the more likely a home run is going to get hit, right? If you're the one pitching. So when I'm gonna use an acting analogy, I desire to be booked as an actor. I desire to book a bunch of regional theater gigs. I also desire to be on Broadway, be on off-Broadway. I desire to be in TV, film. Like, I desire a lot of things in my acting career. And so for me, my job is to pitch as many balls to the universe as I possibly can, because we know an acting career, it's so much about luck. It's so much about timing, being in the right place at the right time. Yes, you have to be extremely talented. You have to be really, not always, right? But okay, here's what I choose to believe. I'm going to be as talented of an actor as I can, but then my main job is to just keep showing up, pitch as many balls to the universe as possible, give the universe as many opportunities, give the industry as many opportunities as I can to say yes, to pluck me out, to give me a job, to give me a gig, to cast me, right? So that means me going to auditions is part of pitching balls to the universe. Even if an EPA, it's like, I know people get all, with auditions, equity principal auditions, that's what an EPA is, with like, oh, who's gonna be there? Oh, that one's not worth my time. Or like, oh yeah, that one's not a good pay rate, whatever. I don't care. I go, because that's me pitching a ball to the universe. That's me being like, hey universe, I'm showing up. I'm doing a great monologue. I made a great impression on that casting director or that casting assistant who, like, won EPA this year. I realized the casting assistant that so many people wrote off last year at an EPA is now the casting director for that show, for that theater, right? And I was able to like come in and be like, hey, nice to see you again. Like, we had that connection, right? Because I had the thought I'm pitching a ball to the universe. Every single video submission I get, right? Like, I'm submitting because who the fuck knows? It's not my job to know, but I'm going to keep showing up and I'm going to keep pitching balls to the universe. So it's the same thing with your money, right? And with the income you desire to make, with the kind of abundance you want in your bank accounts. It's about pitching balls to the universe. And so one of my clients, we were working the 3M process of making an extra $500 a month because he has a bunch of savings goals now and spending goals, right? We've gotten very clear on the things that he wanted in his lifestyle that requires more money in his bank accounts. And so he started making a list of all the ways he could bring in more money. He was toying about business ideas. There was like 16 ideas that he was toying with, that he was bringing to the coaching calls that we were talking about. Some actually brought in some more dollars, right? Some were just ideas in his head. And literally, our last call this past week, after these 16 other ideas that he tried and was thinking about, he had this other idea that was brand new that he was like, wait, I'm so excited about this. Maybe it'll turn into a full-fledged business, but like, I have this idea. It was so clear in his brain. And this is something he could literally grow and bring with him alongside his acting career. It was so clear for him and he was so excited about it in order to make more money, right? But it was like all of these 16 other ideas that he had written down and tried that then led him to have this like, light bulb moment of like, oh my God, maybe this one is it. Right? It's the same when I was starting my business. I had no fucking idea that this is what Not Starving Artists would turn into today. I had no motherfucking idea. This was a pandemic baby. And this baby came out of me being in a deep, deep, dark place, right? At the start of the pandemic, as so many of us were, right? Drinking so much wine, crying that auditions were gone. I basically didn't know who I was outside of being an actor. And so my mantra was, I'm going to follow my breadcrumbs of joy. I'm going to pitch balls to the motherfucking universe. And so the first thing that excited me was I wrote a narrative blog post, an article, because I write a lot, but I had never done anything that was getting published, but I did so much writing in my journal, so much narrative writing. I wrote a narrative article about the beginning of the pandemic to be posted on a blog with someone I went to college with who had started a blog. So I wrote this article and it ended up never getting published, but I was really proud of it and I realized how much I liked it. And I was like, oh, I wonder what else I could write about. And I had been doing my own money thing for ages. So I was like, yeah, let me just write about how I manage money as a freelancer with fluctuating income. And that blog then kind of like blew up and people were like, wait, people aren't talking about this. So I started like pitching myself to other blogs. And then that blog, I was like, oh, I actually think I like short form and video a lot. So why don't I turn this into an Instagram page? So then I started an Instagram page and then people were really resonating with it on Instagram. And I was like, yeah, I think I want to coach on this. So I started coaching and then I created an ebook and then I created my first group program and then I started one-on-one coaching and then I launched another group program. Like it then just spiraled, but it was about me pitching balls to the universe, right? But in that moment, like when I was growing this business, the thought I had was, I'm going to make more money in a way where I can still fully do my artistic career. So while I was doing these things with my business, which I didn't even know was a business at the start, I just thought I was blogging. I didn't even have a money-making idea with it. I was just like, this is fun. I enjoy this. Let me just do this. Alongside that, I was also teaching English online in the mornings because I was like, well, this is great. I can make my money in the mornings. I'll wake up super early, but then I'll have the rest of my day to do auditions and do art. Cool. Then I decided I wanted something that would let me sleep in. So I started looking for virtual assistant jobs. And I got so clear in my manifestation, like the first step of it, where I was like, here's exactly what I want. I want this amount per hour because that equals how much then I get to save and spend and invest each month. And I want it to be flexible, and I want it to be remote, and I only want one meeting on my calendar a week, and I want it to be with all women because I'm not working with men, not in these days, right? And so I had this very clear list of what I wanted, and then I went and I was like then doing the action to be like, where am I going to find this kind of job? I'm not going to find it on LinkedIn, I'll tell you that right now. So I started looking a bunch of different places and like trying out different things, trying video cover letters, like, I don't know, I was just like fucking around. And like, this is how I got an interview with Quip, right? Like the toothbrush brand Quip, having no experience in corporate as a marketing director, I literally got an interview with Quip because I was playing around with fucking ideas of how to get noticed and how to get a job that was exciting to me. So anyway, this is how I landed my first virtual assistant job that was paying me $25 or $30 an hour. Totally flexible, totally paid my bills, right? And I was like, oh my God, this is a dream. And then when my expenses increased, I was like, okay, universe, I need to make more money because I'm moving to a higher cost of living city, to Denver. And I want to be able to afford it with ease, the same kind of ease that I'm affording in Florida. And then all of a sudden I got promoted to an operations director. And now it covered all of my new bills. Okay? So like there was a magical element and then there was a practical element. There's always a magical element and there's always a practical element. So you need to be doing those three steps, right? Like manifesting, deciding what you want, taking practical action, and then leaving room for the magic. And now I want to talk to my people who want to make a lot more money or who want a lot more money in their bank accounts, right? Do you have the system in place in your bank accounts, in your money management, your flow, your routines, all of that, to manage all of the new money that you want to be bringing in? Do you have that set up right now? Because if not, that's part of the reason it hasn't happened yet. Your bank accounts need to be ready to manage all of that new money that's coming in. I was working with a client one time where she was already making $500K. She's a voiceover artist. And her goal was to make $1 million. And so what we did was we took her current money system, her current money flow that was running like $500K through it, and we ran $1 million through it. What would $1 million look like each month, right? Like if we averaged it out, what would be like the highest billable month that you could see happening in $1 million year? How does that run through your money flow? Where is money pooling? Where would you not know what to do? Where do you need support? So we basically did like a practice run of the money she desired to make through her current money management system. And then what we were able to do is be like, oh, it's going to pool here. You're going to have more money here than you normally do. What do you want to do with it? Let's make a plan for it so that you're not like, oh my gosh, what do I do with this extra money when all of it's coming in? Like, you know exactly what you want to do with it. At that level, you're going to want to make another hire. So here's what that's going to cost. Your expenses are actually going to go up. So here's actually what you're going to have left over. So it's like, you're not just going to have $500K in your pocket now. It's going to be like, oh, you're going to have an extra like $200K in your pocket because of this and this and this. And you want to increase your investments and you want to hire this person. You want to do this. So we ran her dream amount of money through her practical system so that when she did start making $1 million, it felt normal and it didn't shock her nervous system. Everyone's talking about nervous system regulation these days. Let me not say it like that because I love nervous system regulation. It's so important. I do shit all day, every day to regulate my nervous system. But the best thing you can do for your nervous system is have the practical things in place to not dysregulate your nervous system. So if she wants $1 million a year, great, let's make sure that she feels regulated and that the highest billable month for $1 million a year actually feels very normal, not just because she has the practical system to handle it, but also because she's practiced it. She's seen how it runs through her bank account. So when it actually happens for real, she's like, yeah, that tracks. Yeah, that's normal. So it's like setting yourself up for the more money that you are bringing in. If someone handed you $1 million check tomorrow, would you know exactly what to do with that money? If you're having the thought like, oh, I just wish I could win the lottery and like have $1 million, or like, I wish I could just have a sugar daddy who paid me, $10,000 a month. Cool. Like, do you know how that sugar daddy would pay you, what bank account it would hit, and then how you'd split up that $10,000? If the answer is no, that's your work, right? Do you have a savings account open with buckets allocated, like with goal numbers of like, how much do you want in your 3 month of bills buffer? Right? Do you know what it costs to live as you month to month to month so you can support yourself for 6 months and have that savings account? So then when that bucket is filled up, then you can put money towards vacations and like other spending. And this is also so many people I hear say like they want to go out to eat more and do that with ease and they want to take more vacations. But what happens is when they start making more money, they haven't worked on their mindset. And so they're still feeling like they're broke. They haven't normalized more money. Like they still feel like, oh fuck, it could all get taken away from me. And so they're hoarding money in their savings account. So even though they're making more, they're not able to actually do the things that they wanted to do from making more money because they didn't get clear on their money management system. So like when you make more money, you need to have a way for it to funnel, yes, into your savings, into your future self. But then how much more are you going to pay yourself if you're running a business? Or how much more are you going to allocate for yourself to go on those vacations quarterly, 6 times a year? How much are you going to allocate for you to spend more on going out and like treating your friends and gifts and whatever else you want to do? Have you thought about that? No, write it down. Go get your journal out and write it down. How much, like what your current lifestyle looks like and then what you want it to look like. I have a video training inside of the Cashed Up Creatives portal, which you get inside of my monthly membership and as a one-on-one client. That's called Creating Your Dream Lifestyle. And I talk about how to practically assess what your current lifestyle looks like and then put numbers to your dream lifestyle to figure out what the gap is, what your bridge is. And then we actually have a math equation we can solve here, okay? So do you see how we're blending the practical and the magical? It's always gonna be both. And I feel like I really learned this being in the acting world, being a creative, because so much of the creative world is based on luck and magic and this like unnamed energy that's just flowing through. Like, who knows why some people get gigs and some people don't, right? There's so many talented people who aren't booking gigs. Like, there is so much luck that's a part of it. So we know that there's this magical element. Same with money. Like, there are so many very talented people who make a fuck ton of money, who have a fuck ton of money, and there are so many incredibly talented people who are broke and living paycheck to paycheck and have $50,000 in debt. It has nothing to do, I mean, it has some to do with like talent and your work ethic, whatever, but that's not the deciding factor. There's a luck and a magical element. And so you need to tap yourself into that luck and that magic while also taking the action to continue to pitch balls to the universe. I'll tell my story about meeting Jimmy Buffett. I just always, like, from when I was little, I've always been a Jimmy Buffett fan. I knew I wanted to meet Jimmy Buffett, right? Like, that was just something that was always in my brain. Like, I'm going to meet Jimmy Buffett. I want to meet Jimmy Buffett. But then as I was going through my life, what was happening was like, I mean, I love Jimmy Buffett and I love Margaritaville. And so I ended up getting accepted into the very first inaugural round of their college ambassador program. There was 6 of us that started out because I would check the website every once in a while because I was thinking, like, what if I worked for Margaritaville? I would check the careers page. So I was one of the first people to see this college ambassador program. I was one of the first 6 that got onboarded. So I made connections with the people running the program. And then as so many more people joined that first year, but like I had this connection and I was like doing the things I needed to do in order to make a name for myself in this program, and also because I was excited about it. Anyway, I ended up being one of the top 8 ambassadors, and I got invited to this round table event where we were kind of helping shape what this ambassador program would be, which turned into Margaritaville University in the future. And on that trip, I met one of the content creators who was doing all the like film and video, right, for this program. And we got really close. Like, I really enjoy his energy, his vibe. He's a wonderful human being. And also the other people in the program, sure. But then that very next year, like, I stayed in contact with these people, and this guy invited me to act in one of the videos that's now on the Margaritaville careers page. So I'm literally on the Margaritaville careers page now on their like music video, right? Because of this connection I made. And then because of that, and because of these connections, and because of the name I had made for myself inside of this ambassador program, one of the leadership inside of the Margaritaville brand asked me to be one of the keynote speakers at a big summit conference that they were doing for like real estate investors to like license the Margaritaville brand for the hotels. So I was a keynote speaker. And then at that event, Jimmy Buffett made a surprise appearance to come and play for these investors, for these people who were going to license the hotels. And because I was the resident young person for this new college ambassador program trying to reach out to the young people, I was the one person there who was chosen to speak on it. They wanted Jimmy Buffett to meet me to be like, there is a future of this company. Here's our young person. And then I was the one person that got to meet Jimmy Buffett, right? A lifelong dream of mine. I got to meet that man, right? Because I was doing the practical action to put myself in these spaces, but I couldn't have predicted that. Are you fucking kidding me? I didn't know he was going to be there when I accepted that job. But that is what I mean by like blending the practical and the magical. It's always going to be both. And as I'm telling these real life stories outside of money, when you have this headspace, when you have this mindset of like, I'm going to manifest something, and that also comes with practical action, but I need the practical action to have the energy of, and I'm leaving room for magic. When you have that, it affects every area of your life. You can do this for anything and everything. You can do this for a life partner, a soulmate. You can do this for money. You can do this for a business. You can do this for a job. You can do this with acting. You can do this with whatever, right? You can do it with meeting your favorite celebrity and then see what happens, right? And so it's going to bleed into every area of your life. And this is where I was also talking about this on Instagram earlier this week, my special exception, special snowflake, exception to the rule energy. I have cultivated this throughout my whole life, right? That I am going to be the exception to the rule. I'm going to be the one who gets the special opportunity. And I'm going to do the things to make that a reality, but like, that's going to be my life. And so like, was it likely improbable for me to meet Jimmy Buffett? No, that's fucking insane. Was it likely improbable that I was going to be one of the main speakers at that event for the Margaritaville brand? Absolutely the fuck not. But I had cultivated this presence and this skill set and this thing that actually got me into those rooms, right? That got me those connections that made that possible, right? And so I've cultivated this idea, this mindset.
of magical and wonderful things always happen to me. And because I have that mindset, I go and put myself in places for magical and wonderful things to happen to me. This is part of when I was dating, right? Like before I met my partner, who I'm so deeply in love with. When I was dating, I was having so much fun just like going on dates with like really cool men and just like bopping around and like meeting people. Like there was something in that energy where I was like, I'm gonna go and put myself in situations to meet people and to date and to have a blast. And in doing so, right, I actually met my partner while I was on a date with someone else. Delusion is only delusion if you don't take the action that makes the delusion work, right? So if you want a soulmate, and then you don't leave your house and you don't get on the dating apps and you don't talk to your friends about the fact that you're looking for someone, do you have anyone to set me up with? If you're not reaching out to people or like smiling and waving at the cute boy at the bar or going places by yourself without your AirPods in so people could talk to you if they think you're cute, right? If you're not doing that, then like, yeah, the thought I'm going to find my soulmate this year, that's absolutely really delusional because you're not doing the things to make it real, right? To actually make it a possibility. Same with money. It's like, I want more money. Okay, cool, amazing. Like, what are all the things you're doing to put yourself in situations where that can actually happen? I want to have more in my savings. I want to save more. Amazing, that's so awesome. What's your bank account system that automatically funnels money into your savings when you make more money? Right? Like, you have to ask yourself those questions. If you're like, I want a different job. I'm tired of working in restaurants. I want a different job. That's amazing. What jobs have you applied to this week? Who have you reached out to see if they have a different kind of job? What's your dream job description, right? Do you have that written out so when someone asks you, you can give it to them? Do you see these things? Like they're very practical that you can do, but they come from having the thought of the delusional thing you want, the thing you want to manifest. So actually manifesting more money will then show you the steps you need to take in order to make the more money. Oh, I was going to come back to an acting example. I was coaching one of my clients recently, and we were talking about, because money touches everything, we were talking about her acting career. And she was talking about how she didn't have a lot of energy to, like, she should be going to dance class, but she's not, and she wants to pay for it, but she's not, and, like, she's feeling very, like, lackluster about it, and, like, why don't I have the willpower to get myself to the dance class and, like, do these things that everyone else is doing? And I was like, well, what's your acting goals? What's your delusional acting dream? And she was like, well, all of it, just like anyone that will hire me. And I'm like, that's the key right there. Anyone that will hire me, that's not a delusional thought. That's probable, right? You taking any job that anyone will give you, right? Any table scraps that are thrown your way, that's what's likely. I want a delusional thought. I want what you are specifically manifesting. What kind of acting job do you want? What kind of world do you want to perform in? And what we got down to was she was like, yeah, I love reading so much, because I was giving her examples of like, you could do this and you could do this and you could do this. And she was like, oh, when you were talking about like playing a role from a book that I'm really obsessed with, like that actually really lit me up. And she was talking about the Throne of Glass series, which I am also reading right now. I'm trudging my way through Heir of Fire, and I'm going to make my way through the 5th book. But I loved ACOTAR so much, I'm making my way through it. Anyway, she loved Throne of Glass, and she was like, yeah, like when we think about that, like I would love to play one of those characters. And I was like, amazing, because they're all gonna be up on Hulu, Netflix, hopefully HBO in these next few years, and you're gonna be right at the age range to play so many of these characters. What are you doing to prepare yourself for that? And she was like, oh my God, like, and then she started getting excited in her body. So I'm like, the person who gets cast as Selena in Throne of Glass, it doesn't need to be going to Broadway dance class. She needs to be in stage combat class. She needs to be CrossFit training. She needs to be working on her sword skills. She needs to be in acting class. She needs to be finding the agent and manager who is casting for those kind of TV film series. Right? Like, oh my God, that's such a different direction than like, oh, I need to get myself in dance class. Right? So do you see how the specific manifestation, the specific delusional thought, the thing you want is going to get you so clear on where you actually need to go? I was talking to another client who we were talking about feeling like putting effort into other things that weren't creativity would detract from her creativity, right? And make it less possible that she would get these jobs. And I was like, well, what if the person at your day job or the person that you're starting this business with has a friend who is, you know, their uncle is the person that you've dreamed co-starring with, and somehow you make that connection, and because you're a brilliant full-fledged human being that's not just actor robot, you then have a connection with this actor who then wants to bring you in to do this really cool show. Like, you have no idea how that shit's gonna happen. So you have to pitch balls to the universe, and that requires you taking action. So the moral of all of this is that delusional thinking makes things possible when you put yourself in places and positions and take action for that to actually happen. You're like opening doors for the magic to walk through. So that's why in coaching, when I work with clients, we're never just focusing on the mindset and we're never just focusing on the strategy. We are always going to do both together, mindset and strategy. Magic and practical. We're always gonna do both of it. I love getting the messages from my clients who are like, oh my God, this is so unexpected. This thing happened. I got this money that came through, or like, you know, I got this random check in the mail, or yeah, this job came through that I wasn't expecting, or like, oh, I just got this raise and at my job that I wasn't expecting because, you know, the company's done layoffs this year and I didn't think they were doing raises, but then all of a sudden I got a raise. Like, that kind of stuff doesn't surprise me one fucking bit when you start working on your money. The amount of times that happens to my clients, I'm like, you realize this isn't a surprise, right? Like, you realize that you made this happen by showing the universe, God, angels, the energy, whatever you want to say, you're showing the world that you're open and ready for the thing you want to manifest. So it actually doesn't matter what action you're taking. The action you're taking is showing that you're ready. So then magical shit can come into your life. And sometimes you can draw that direct correlation, but sometimes you can't. And that's okay. Like this month, I'm doing an experiment on myself where I'm putting the framework, make an extra $500 a month that I teach in my video training portal. I'm practicing that myself, and I'm doing it outside of my business. So I'm trying to make as much money as I can outside of how I normally make money in my business, because I want to test it out and I want to teach my clients how I did it, actually using the things I teach my clients and making them happen for me. And so I'm making extra cash, but what this has done is it's like opened me up to so much. Like, I feel like I'm seeing opportunity everywhere, right? And there's something about my energy that's just so open and excited recently in a way that it hasn't been before. This is like such a beautiful byproduct. And one of the things that happened is I got a call back for a show that I'm so excited about at an awesome theater, right? And I have gotten 2 like big theater callbacks this year. One was earlier this year and then this one now. And I'm looking at that and I'm like, yes, like that it's completely, it's not out of the blue, but it has nothing to do with me making $500 more a month. But it's also, it's not a coincidence that this callback came through this month, the week after I started implementing this new energy. That's crazy if that's a coincidence, right? But there's something about like what I'm calling in right now, opportunities and money, right? Like this contract would pay me obviously too. So I'm like, yeah, like I'm ready and willing to get paid for theater contracts. And so there's something about opening yourself up where it's going to create just like other byproducts that you weren't expecting. Okay, so I hope this was helpful. I always want to make so clear that the magical and the practical are always going to go hand in hand, because I think that a lot of the content I see about them leans heavily one way or heavily the other. You're always going to need both. It's always going to need to be both. I hope you guys have a fantastic week. Your homework this week is to write down your delusional thoughts, your manifestations, the things you want to call in, and then make a list of all the things you can do to put yourself in spaces for those things to happen. All right. Happy manifesting. Go have your delusions. Love you.
Thanks so much for tuning in. Come join me on Instagram for more on how to build a simple, sexy relationship with your money. My Instagram handle is @NotStarvingArtists. And if you want to dive deeper with me, head to the show notes to learn more about one-on-one coaching. If you love this episode, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend that you want to get rich with.